We just talked about how the robotics facility can strike back. But before we get on to our next segment, we're going to talk about a little bit about the advertisement we just saw for Full Sail University. A lot of cool graphics you saw there, a lot of cool animations, both 3D, 2D, etc. And Full Sail University is our official education partner. You can find more information about them at fullsail.edu/MLG. Fill out a little form. It'll send you tons of information about their myriad programs on how to make games, game design, audio engineering, graphic art, video production, 3D animation. All these different skill sets that all contribute to make a great game like Starcraft 2, like League of Legends, like Call of Duty, all the games that you like to watch. If you want to be a part of making the next generation of those, go to fullsail.edu/MLG to find out some more information. It does work. I mean, we've got a couple employees here who've gone through the Full Sail program. All of our graphics done by a Full Sail graduate. Audio is mostly done by Full Sail graduate. Got a 3D animator intern now helping with that as well. So a lot of cool stuff can be done and learned at that program. Talking about rules of engagement, we just talked about how the robotics facility can be strong. The robotics struck back into Phoenix play. But now taking a look at how to deal with such play on our next segment, which is going to be the return to the Phoenix. And the important things here, again, you notice how last section I talked about the importance of reacting to your scouting. We're going to talk about what happens if you actually do react to your scouting and play a little bit smarter. And then how to defend that mass warp gate pressure that looked like it was so hard to hold in such a powerful tool. And then lastly, talk about how to capitalize on your tech advantage once you do defend that mass warp gate pressure. So jumping into replay, the 6-minute mark. 6-minute marks is typically where I like to start for PvP because that's where, non-warp gate, even 4 gates. Most games start to really happen and cool stuff starts to go flying around. So I've scouted what the Phoenix is. I've noticed again he's doing that fast expansion build. He gets a Nexus. He goes 1 gate, Nexus, then Robotics, and then 2nd gate. And the Robotics lets him scout and react to what he sees. It's a great build. So I've scouted him, and so I know he's doing a 1 gate expansion. But now I need to know how he's following this up. So we're going to continue scouting, picking stuff off the Phoenix. I've got, I think, 2 probes so far. Just flying around, being annoying. 3rd Phoenix to join me. And what do I see? I see 5 warp gates. So he's doing that mass warp gate pressure again. This time, the reason he has 5 instead of 4 is because he skipped the warp. So this is actually just a little, it's basically the same build. You just get 1 less immortal, but you have more warp in. So I would say it's actually stronger against Phoenixes because the immortal doesn't really help all that much. Of course, he can't shoot up and he gets lifted and isolated without too much of a problem. So I've seen mass warp gates. So instead of trying to just hold a larger choke that I wouldn't be able to hold without a ton of sentries, and I don't have the gas for that many sentries, instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel. I'm going to set up a strong defensive position while I counter with my Phoenix. So as you can see there, I'm going to end up building up a lot of extra minerals because I'm not building probes. I was planning on spending minerals on Nexus and on probe production, but unfortunately that's not going to, probe production won't help me. The Nexus, I can't defend that location. So I'll build up some extra minerals that help mitigate this to a little degree by adding 2 more gateways, but it'll still happen because I'll be mostly wanting to warp in sentries. But meanwhile, I'll counter with these Phoenixes. I've got 5 kills already, and that's just going to continue to go up, ideally. I should keep lifting guys. I usually try to lift the guys on gas, just because if they don't notice it, then they'll get less gas income, and I'm more worried about Stalkers, Blink, tech stuff than just pure Zealots. I can deal with Zealots without a problem. So I set up this defensive position, and I'm countering with Phoenix. So if you look at the income tab right now, he's a little bit ahead, but as the Phoenix start to kill more and more workers, that should equalize. Now, the trick is that defending this warp gate pressure is actually not as simple as just putting down force fields, right? And the reason why is because he's got that, if you look at his vision, he can see up because he's got this observer. And that makes it a little bit harder to defend against this warp gate pressure. So, because of that observer, I need to be very careful of my opponent's force fields while I constantly keep the ramp force field. I have to do 2 things. Keep this ramp force fielded at all times so he can't get up. At least, at all times when he tries to walk up, but he's got to wait for this next warp in until he's strong enough. But keep this force fielded at all times, and be careful for his force fields. We saw in the last game he was able to isolate Zealots with force fields. If I get too close to this edge, he can loop me with force fields and isolate more of my units. Meanwhile, of course, I'm going to constantly attack as it workers up to 8 kills now, trying to equalize that economic situation a little bit more. So let's talk about the micro in this situation. So he's gonna wait until he has a few more units so he can start forcing me to use force fields. There, I use force fields, and now I've got to keep this permanently force fielded. But at the same time, his sentries here, I've got to keep my army back from them. And what he's gonna do is he's gonna try to lure my army forward by working warpins here. And in fact, I see this piling here, but I actually don't even see these, I do see these warpins, but I can't engage them effectively. Because if I send my units right here to engage, actually, let's actually just use a little bit better illustration tool here. So, if I put my units in here to engage, if I put my army right here, oops. So if my army is right there so I can shoot at these zealots with my sentries, what happens? Well, he has force fields of his own, and he can go ahead and use those. He can throw a force field right here, one right here, one right here. Well, actually, I mean, I'm putting these X's way closer than the force fields have to be, but you get the point. He can force field my units into a situation where all of a sudden his units on the low ground can just go and just kill them all. And then I'm dead and I lose the game, and that's not good, right? Because nobody wants to lose games. So I have to be very careful to stay away from that region. And as I go forward, we're going to notice that I won't engage these zealots until they come out and come to me. Because if I get my sentries trapped and killed, I lose the ability to block that ramp. And if you look at this army, I mean, he's got like a lot of units. I have not a lot of units. I mean, if you count the Phoenixes, I do, and this is why they're starting to pull back. Because I figured, okay, I'm up to 11 workers killed with my constant counter-harass. That's okay, but I need to make sure I don't die now. And I also know one other thing. He's committed units to the high ground. So even though I'm not killing probes in my Phoenixes if I send them back, if I wait too long, because he has 5 warp gates, he can make a lot of units here. And then there'll be too many and he'll be able to overrun me win. So I do want to stop and kill these units before they get too big. I also know that I can kill these units for free with the Phoenixes because they're unprotected. So that's 2 reasons to send a Phoenix back. Now, talking about these force fields here, what he's trying to do is he's trying to push me back so I can't force field the ramp, and then he's going to try to get his way forward. I do have one sentry that's still in range. I can nab a force field on the top there. And it would be ideal to put the force field lower, because now these units are just a little bit closer to be able to shoot me, but it's still better than if these guys all got up, I'd lose the game. So it's still very important to keep those force fields going. And now my Phoenixes are starting to come back, and now I want to start picking off of this army before it gets too big. If you notice, again, I put one more force field there. Make sure that force field does not go away. If this goes away, I'm dead. So I've got to deal with this army here while permanently keeping the force field situated up here. And that's what the Phoenixes are going to help for. They're going to come in and pick up some of these units, the Sentry, the Zealots. The reason to pick up the Zealots and not the Stalkers is because if you look at Phoenixes, they do twice the damage to light. You'd rather pick up the light units. The other reason why is whatever units he has are going to be attacking my Zealots. Would I rather have a unit that does, Zealot does like 12 DPS, or actually it's 13.3 DPS to my Zealots. Would I rather have that guy attacking me, or would I rather have a Stalker that does like 6.7 DPS? I'd rather have the Stalker attacking me because it doesn't hurt as much. So pick up the Zealots, not the Stalkers. Of course, eventually pick up the Stalkers once the Zealots are dealt with, and most importantly, keep that spot force fielded. Sure, these guys can pick up my guys when they're too close, but you know what? If they get up the ramp, I'm totally dead. Now I can back away once I've killed the units. If you look at units lost tab, I've been very efficient there. Just because the use of the Phoenixes, the use of a lot of his army was isolated there. And if you also notice, I'm being very careful about killing the Stalker. If I send these units up to kill the Stalker, all of a sudden, there's all these sentries here. Remember, they can trap me with those force fields. So that's why I'm going to just wait and use the Phoenix just to be a little bit safe while I continually try to keep the force fields here. And as soon as I can, I'm going to force field a little bit lower down where it's a little bit easier. Now we're at a situation where I've pretty much held this attack. I mean, he may try one more go at it. In fact, I think I've held attack, so I'm going back to do more damage on the counter with the Phoenixes. But he's like, wait a minute, you're not done yet. He's going to try again. So, okay, let's bring these guys back because you've got to make sure our defense is solid. And now I'm in a situation where I feel I've got, 6 Zealots and 5 Sentries. He's got a bunch of Stalkers, but he doesn't have too many Zealots. Let's see. Yeah, let's see, he has 1 Observer. He doesn't have too many Zealots, basically. He only has a few. And so if I can pick up the last Sentries and get rid of his force fields, all of a sudden I can come down the ramp and just kill his army. So maybe waiting for one more Warpin, or in fact, That was my force field. I don't know why I put a force field there. Just being super paranoid about it. Now he realizes my army is actually stronger than his. If you look at army size, much stronger than his. So he's got to have to retreat. But I don't want to tangle with him with just the Phoenixes. But what I can do is, I probably shouldn't have killed him as I flying V across his army, but probably should have not ran right over him. But you want to intimidate him when you do the flying V. You've got to intimidate your opponent. I can beat him back to his base and get a bunch more probe kills. So right there, instead of 11, I just got 5 more probe kills. And then, of course, I can go run around, wait for some more energy, come back again. But now we're in a situation where let's take a look at it. I have an army advantage, but to be honest, I probably can't kill him. He can warp in like 2 sentries with 5 warp gates, it won't be a problem. He can warp in 5 zealots at a time. His warp ins are too strong for me to be able to kill him. We look at economics of the situation. He's got a better economy. He's got 2 more probes, even after all the ones I've killed. And he's got 2 bases to mine from. So he's got a significant economic advantage. But I have a big tech advantage. So what we want to talk about now is how I can capitalize on this tech advantage. So after I defended his pressure, I'm at an economic advantage. But what I can do is I can try to use my Phoenix fleet. If you watch this for the next minute or so, I have to use this Phoenix fleet to try to equalize the economy. And then while he's trying to find a way to deal with these Phoenixes, because right now he doesn't have a way, right? He's got no blink and Stalkers can't keep up with him. While he's trying to find a way to deal with the Phoenixes, if you can see right now he's paranoid about me killing him, so he needs to hit the ramp. That allows me to get more damage done. While he's trying to find a way to deal with these Phoenixes, I can be progressing my tech up to Colossi, and then I'll have a tech advantage. So what I want to do is I want to try to use my current tech advantage to both equalize the economy. I'm trying to, rebuild my economy here. Equalize the economy, and at the same time, try to maintain the tech advantage by going to a new tech while he's still 1 step behind me. We can see here, I'm assuming it's going to go to a Colossi mirror, so I'm getting the attack upgrade because that helps the Phoenixes. When you have this many Phoenixes, you want to be able to kill Colossi effectively, so you need that attack upgrade. So he's struggling to try to get this blink tech up. If you fast forward, once I feel I have the gas income, I'm going to start going for the Robotech to stay a step ahead of him. Meanwhile, consistent Phoenix harassment up to 27 workers killed now. My expansion's up, and it's equal probe count. So I've successfully equalized the economy, and now I'm getting a tech advantage. So that puts him in an awkward position where he's like, okay, now I'm even more behind the economy. Look at this. Now I'm four probes ahead. I did lose the Phoenix there, but still. He's in a situation where he could play behind the whole game, say, okay, I'll wait till I get blink, get a few more Stalkers, maybe get some cannons to defend my worker lines. Then I can work on my Colossi and go to the late game. But he's going to be ahead of me because he's been macroing back home the whole time, and I'm already, or I should be already starting my robotic support bay. Not quite yet. Well, right now I'm a little worried about a counterattack. So, but basically I'm going to be ahead in tech. So instead of trying to play catch, he says, you know what? I have the same advantage at the start. Let's try to use my mass warp-ins and my army advantage, and now I have the blink tech to try to bust him. Because if I let him sit back too long, he'll get a tech advantage, just like I said that I was trying to do. And me, I've spotted this using the scouting of the Phoenixes. So 1, I got to bring these Phoenixes back to defend. This many Phoenixes is a strong army. You want their support. And 2, I'm getting some cannons here just to help if he goes up the front way, right? But he doesn't want to try this with this many sentries, right? Force fields. If he blinks up, all of a sudden he gets slaughtered by this many zealots and the photon cannons. He's got to try to find a different way to go about it. So he's going to try to blink in my main. If you fast forward here. And this is like a desperation move. As soon as he blinks in the main, this is where I can try to put my army to use. And the Phoenixes, without these Phoenixes, I might lose the game. Because I just have Sentry Zealot versus Blink Stalker. Once he gets the cooldown again, he can micro them. But with the Phoenixes, while he's busy trying to micro around, he's just going to lose units, right? If he kites versus Zealots, the Phoenixes kill Stalkers, and I just lose a couple of Zealots for a couple Stalkers. A good trade for me. If he stays like he did there and tries to focus down these Phoenixes so they can't pick him off, then the Zealots do their damage, and the Zealots do insane damage once they get close. So he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. No great response there. I tried to trap him there, force him to use a blink. Didn't work out as ideally, but the bottom line is this army is very effective against Blink Stalkers, especially in a confined situation like your base. And once I clean up his army here, it's going to be curtains for him. I've got twice his supply. The game goes on for a while because he tries to do some base racy stuff, and I play a little bit extra conservative. But the game's basically decided at this point. There's no way he can win from here. Economy is roughly even, but with this much army size, what I can do, is I can either just kill his base, or I can just take a third and ensure that he can never take a third, because anytime he tries to take a third, I'll just walk over and kill it. So this replay was really to illustrate how to deal that mass warp gate pressure that they can throw at you when you go Phoenixes. So we talked about how powerful the robotics fast expand into mass warp gate pressure can be, but if you deal with it appropriately, give up your natural, cancel that Nexus, counter with Phoenixes, try to kill as many probes as possible, then run back to defend if they're obstinate and trying to warp it onto high ground. And then you can try to equalize the situation. Make sure to continually build Phoenixes so that as soon as they back off, you can kill massive amounts of probes, because you need to really capitalize on a tech advantage and use it to equalize the economy. That about winds it up for this section of PvP on the return of the Phoenix. We'll take a quick break and be right back with a question and answer period.